Hello, welcome to Los Comics TV. I'm your host, Javier Hernandez. Today we're going to be doing an inking video. This is page 41 actually. Page 41 of my current in production graphic novel, Muerto, CASA del Diablo. So some of you may be familiar with, El Muerto, hopefully. And of course, some of you may have jumped in on the Kickstarter last year where you're able to get a preview of the book. I have two versions of it, Casa del Diablo. So this was a book featuring the first I think it's 26 pages of the graphic novel. So it's the 26 pages or 28, something like that I had finished up to the point of this doing this Kickstarter last summer. So I'm currently two different editions available of this. You can check in my web shop later after the episode. There's a link down at the bottom of the video. But anyway, so this is, like I said, page 41 of the continuing adventures of El Muerto. So I'm going to get started with this. Just so you can see here, this is the rough draft, the thumbnail page, right? When I sketch out the whole book in thumbnail form, all 120 something pages of it. So this is the original idea I had for it. It hasn't changed much, actually. You know, still the same basic pose of the Conquistador. And then there's an inset shot. I'll probably ink that. I'll ink that afterwards. I don't know if I'll do it on camera. I got to get, stick my head right in there because it's so small. The details. It's a opening of a stairway. So this takes place up in a hacienda, giant hacienda, and this is a tower of it. So this is the staircase leading up to Spiral Tower. This is the top of the stairs, and then they go up into the room at the top of the tower. And this thing shows up. They meaning El Muerto and the co-star of the book. So all I did was remove this insert, the main villain of the story, La Doña Macaria La Dolente. Anyway, like I said, you got to see the previous page, but these are just the decisions you make, and you lay it out the first time, and then when you start deciding, okay, how I want the final page to look, always edits, like I said, this one is pretty close to the original idea, the same pose basically and everything. I did have his arm raised up holding the sword, almost like getting ready for some action, as opposed to just holding it off to the side there. So again, decisions. So anyway, what's funny about my thumbnails, I don't know if you can see the numbers really good, but at one point, this was page, I think 31, then 33, then 35. I see a 41 there, then it ended up to be 43. It's when I do the whole pass of the book, say it was only 100 pages, then I would go through and I go, you know what? I need to expand, page 5 through 10. I need to expand it some more just to make for the storytelling and whatever, if I want to do some more tension or more drama. So when I do that, I add pages and I got to go back and renumber the whole book. So I have to renumber all the pages. And then vice versa. Sometimes I may go back and edit it. And I go, you know what? Page 10 through 15, I can probably shorten it because it's too long. It doesn't need to be like that. So, but that's why I do thumbnails. That's why I do rough drafts. To edit, cut it up, throw stuff out, throw stuff back in, maybe move a sequence to another section of the story. Whatever works for the story, that's all that's important. Like all this sloppy stuff, who cares? The thumbnails aren't really meant to be, this isn't what people are going to see, although sometimes I do publish these as extras. But anyway, so that's why whenever I show you thumbnail pages, that's a lot of numbers on this one. I'm sure they're all like that because the whole book changes. It's a pain in the neck because you have to go through 120 pages, whatever. Okay, now I got to go renumber them starting from whatever page. But anyway, at least I know now what I want to draw here in ink. So I can put this aside. And I'm just going to get started. Those of you who've seen my inking videos before or know how I work, this is a Pentel pocket brush pen. It's a Japanese brand. I've been using these over 10 years now. Like I said, I used to use, like most cartoonists. Oops, that thing got bent here. The brushes won't be able to use that. I used to use these type of brushes all the time, and you dip them in the ink. Well, this is already ruined, so it doesn't matter. I don't know if you can see, but there's hairs sticking out on the side. Well, whatever. I don't need to even cover it. Why? I'm probably never going to use that again, that particular one. But these I like because you don't have to. Let me show you, in case it's a little dirty with ink. You've probably seen these before, but that may or may not be filled with ink. It's just that the ink has stained the inside of the little cartridge. But there is at least probably, I imagine, half ink in there. And then, so what you do is you just pull that out, throw it away, and pop in a new one. And then you tighten this back on. And then there's your brushes. Oh, you never have to clean it. That's what I love about these. That's why I switched to it. I just didn't want to take the extra minute every day to ink, clean out the ink from the other brush. And you just cap it, and then it's ready for the next time. So this is the next time. Of course, you always want to test your ink, make sure it's working. All right, let me put this, I guess, underneath here. Okay, let me just get started. Let's just get started inking. Again, sometimes try to start on the inside of something and then go out, as opposed to starting on the outside edges and going in, because your hand will smear the ink. Although you're probably going to smear some ink one way or the other. That's just the nature of work. But anyway, so this wasn't the main antagonist of the story. That would be, like I said, the old lady in the picture you saw earlier. Kind of like my my version of La Llorona. I think you've heard of La Llorona. It's a very famous Mexican legend, and I believe it's now traveled through Latin America, and even other countries probably have a version of it. But it's most Mexican kids, we all heard about it when we were small, and we were all born here in the U.S. and we still heard it, right? The old tales from the old country still would make their way into our neighborhoods. But the gist of it is, and I may have told this story on a previous video. It's this woman who, she ended up drowning her own kids, her own infant children. If I remember, it was out of anger and rage at her husband for cheating on her, if I remember it correctly. Regardless, this woman, killed her children. And then, of course, later she laments it. So she's for eternity, she's wandering the countryside, looking for mis niños, my children. So that tale would often be told, like any, folk tale, cultural legend. In this case, to scare kids, hey, kids, don't let the Llorona get you. So you better get back inside by 6 p.m. or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there was a movie, I think it was an American movie, a year or two ago? And, other movies, plenty of movies in Mexico about it and such. So my character, La Doña, is just kind of like, it's a take on that. I didn't want to just use La Llorona showing up in the comic. Like, well, this is La Macaria, La Dolente. But yeah, at one point in the story, this character comes in. I don't want to talk about too much of this comic at the moment, at least the story. But so this wasn't a main adversary. I came up with this pretty much when I got to this point of the story. Like, okay, she's gonna have there's always like a henchman doing her dirty work. And I go, well, what could it be? A demon? What type of a monster or what? And I go, oh, I know. Since the action is taking place inside of a haunted Spanish hacienda, how about a conquistador, or at least the suit of armor of a conquistador? Let's just put it that way. So that's where we're at here. And of course, so like everything else, like a lot of things in the comics, in the storytelling, I had to do some research here and there, just to what does the armor look like. This is an interesting thing here on the on the shoulder. In fact, I got my reference up on the computer there. It's like a little, it almost looks like a gear there on his shoulder where his shoulder bends. So, you know, it's stylized when I draw it, but it does have a gear type of mechanism look to it. But yeah, so research, of course, like, you know, always have to research something if I'm doing like a suit of armor, because like, well, every country, culture, they all have different suits of armor. So you want to get it accurate. You want to look at it right, I should put. As far as what I do with the research, well, I looked at several suits of armor, and I think I came down to 3 final ones I liked. So I got those up on my computer screen here in front of me. And so then when I started drawing it, you know, I take a little bit from here, a little bit from there. I'm not doing a historical comic where, you know, it should be accurate to what's been around before. Just for the integrity of the piece. And also, you know, you're always going to have a historian out there and like, hey, you totally blew this. So just, you know, up front, I'll say, yeah, I'm not here to do a historical representation. I just want to get an idea of what the armor looked like and then kind of fashion my own composite version. So that's what that is. The sword is interesting because, as you'll see in a second, let me finish this part. It had this, you know, the Conquistador swords I looked at the base of it, where the, you know, the blade meets is it the hilt? Some of them had these really interesting. It's not a snake, but it just swirls around and up and over and behind. And I go, wow, that's a really neat little piece of design there. But it does look very serpentine because it goes around in front of the blade. I'm going to use a different tool for the different pen for the blade because I want to try to get that really straight. So yeah, it's my what was that, amalgamation of different designs, and then, you know, some invention. I probably saw these straps, but I just figured the two pieces of the chest piece, the front and back, you know, they'd be strapped together onto the Conquistador. Again, you know, creativity, invention, that's part of our tools. That's what we like to demonstrate as artists. So yeah, I'm definitely doing that. But I do want it to, you know, most people, yeah, most of us aren't experts on armor, but I do want it to, you know, people should be able to look at this and just based on what little they've seen of a Conquistador arm or whatever, it registers right away. Because if it doesn't, if I do a samurai armor, yeah, the audience is like, wait a minute, why is this a samurai armor? So you get the integrity of the item, in this case armor, correct. The rest falls into place, you know. And it is always fun to throw in some of your own invention on it, or you know, comic book armor, put it that way. So, and this is the first appearance of this Conquistador. This is the page where it first appears. So, you know, once this is all inked, for the rest of the sequences he shows up in, I now have my model sheet, meaning that, you know, he's got to look the same way. All the little design flourishes and whatever details should be there in all your other drawings. You know, I know in film and animation, and I'm sure probably a lot of comic book people and stage plays, you know, they have a character design sheets, which I have, you know, I don't have design sheets, but I do have pages in my sketchbook where, obviously, like the first time I did the El Muerto comic years ago, I drew tons of versions of him until I came out with his design. Whereas the Conquistador, as far as I remember, I think I just drew it right here on the page the first time, looking at the different references. I may have a sketch, maybe I did somewhere on a scrap piece of paper or something, but I laid it out here, and then when I drew this, I kind of refined it a little bit with the pencil. So for me, again, this character, I think, is in a few pages of the story. It's a spoiler, isn't it? I shouldn't tell you that, because you should, you might think, oh, wow, this is going to be the big climatic villain throughout the whole piece. But anyway, I'm not going to go and edit that out. So, but for however long, in the story, this character appears. He's not meant to show up in other stories after. So, and he's not even in this whole book. So, I'm satisfied with his design, and I don't feel I need to do a character design sheets, with the side profile and his back and everything. It's like, when I gotta draw for him from behind, I will be able to fathom what that looks like. So again, nothing wrong with character design sheets. And they're really critical when you have a team of people working, like on a film or animation, because everybody has to have that, right? That reference. So, and these are just the little details on the armor based on my research, quote unquote. And then I noticed on some of the images I looked at, this is kind of like an underskirt or whatever. It's like some of them look like steel mesh or something. So I can add some details to that afterwards. But again, just design it how best you want to do it. When I teach my comic classes, I've been doing that this spring again. When I'm showing the students how to draw faces or whatever, I go, well, sometimes you just want to give an indication of it. You don't want to draw the whole face literally, like every detail, every shadow on the nose, and because we're not doing photorealistic art in my classes. They're comics, cartoons. So I use the word show an indication of it. So here I'm showing indication of like mesh, right? Steel mesh. I'm not going to draw every little microscopic, mesh of it. I know to the artist list watching this video, yeah, you guys know that, but we always assume that we have a wider audience watching the video here. So yeah, maybe there's maybe there's non-artists, but maybe young artists starting out, new artists. So we want to hopefully give some good information out there to them. Okay. I gotta try to make sure this is in camera range. Hence this, this beige paper down here. So, one thing I liked about this armor when I looked it up the first time, I saw some images. I noticed that there was a few that had this, this large whole neck piece, this whole neck, and then covering up the bottom mouth. Maybe they had coronavirus back then, and it's like a combo neck guard mask. But anyway, I really like that. And for my purposes, I go, you know what? That's going to be great. Because, again, not to spoil this, but it's a great way to cover up a huge part of the face, the head. And in my case, how should I tell you this? Maybe there's no head in there to actually hide. Dun, dun, dun. So this is a great way to obscure, quote unquote, the quote unquote the face, right? It's just like, okay, the face is hidden there in the shadow under the helmet. It's like wink, wink, wink. Actually, I'm going to shade in the whole bottom of that. There we go. This is actually going quicker than I thought. That's good. That's a good thing. All right. So yeah, and the research applies to all parts of the book, right? You know, I had to research haciendas, and again, I saw dozens of ones I liked. So I would just pick and choose. You know, I like the door from this one and the windows from that one, and so and so. Again, that's your prerogative. And I think it just, I don't know, it makes it, by not making it like an exactly identifiable one, in case someone does a Google search and they see the exact one. This way, they can't find the exact one because it's all hodgepodge. But I think it just adds to the look of the place. Especially with, you know, I was doing a quote-unquote haunted hacienda, so even more so where if it looks a little odd. Like authentic, but not like photorealistic, not like an actual one, if that makes sense. I was looking at some Jack Kirby comics the other day. His run on Fantastic Four particularly, and you know, he'd always have suits of armors from just like Doctor Doom himself, or other characters, or Annihilus, or you know, warlords from Atlantis, or from the Inhumans, and if you really look at it, or from Thor had a lot of suit armor. If you look at one suit of armor on one page and maybe the next panel by the third panel, not that it changes, but you could complain and say, hey, that's not 100% accurate to that first one. But who cares? Who cares? It's the whole idea of like your eyes should be moving anyway really quick. And it's okay. That looks like the same suit of armor Odin is wearing throughout the whole book. But if you actually got there, like the microscope and whatever, you would notice it's not the same one. But again, one thing I learned from Kirby and a lot of cartoonists is, I agree, the point is to just keep moving, keep the story exciting. I mean, obviously, right, if a character pulls out a Colt 45 revolver in one panel, it shouldn't turn into an automatic, right? You know, or a 38 revolver or something. So, again, that's all just little minor details. You definitely want to keep the story moving, and you don't want any major gaffes that take people out of the comic. You know, we all seen movies, right, where something doesn't make any sense to us. Like, why did the character do that? He doesn't seem like he would, but whatever it is. But comic storytelling 101. Fake it until you get to the last page. No, keep it moving. That's the thing. Keep it moving until you get to the last page. Yeah, now I'm just adding little, details and, I don't know, seams in the armor here and there. And again, it's based on what the images I'm looking at for reference, but also little flourishes I want to add to it. Okay. Yeah, this went pretty quick. I like that. So what I'm going to do, use the blue pencil here. So these are what they call non-photo blue. So when I scan this page on my scanner, and in Photoshop on the controls, I'll say scan it black and white. The blue doesn't show up. That's why sometimes we use blue, because you don't have to erase it. I'm just kind of trying to figure out the shading of this, so I'm just gonna add some black metallic, I don't know what we call them, shiny lines. I'm adding some shiny lines to my armor. Because it's steel, so it should have a little bit of look of metal. And that's the way you do these I'm not sure what you call these. They're not called shiny marks, right? But we can call them whatever we want. And yeah, rotate the paper for easy access. I was saying research does applies to all parts of the book. So yeah, the hacienda or even history, right? You're studying the history of something. Like I was trying to research because the location of this story is in Baja California. Along the northern border of Mexico, inside of Mexico. And as far as I could tell, again, I didn't sit there and spend a week in a library in Mexico and find out, but I don't know that there was any haciendas ever built up that far north in, at least in the Baja area. There probably could, now that I think about it, I'm sure there could have been. But, because I wanted to put one there, right? Up in the mountainous region there, along that famous highway, La Rumorosa. So regardless if there was one or not, there is one in my story. And that's all that matters to me. Actually, it's even better if there never was one. Like if someone could tell me absolute proof there wasn't. I go, well, it's even better then, because this is a haunted story. Then why are places appearing that where there's not supposed to be any? Dun dun dun. But again, just the casual, just the basic reader, the reader reading the book. If they're into the character already, yeah, they're there to enjoy the story. I doubt that's going to be an issue, right? Like, hey, there wasn't no haciendas built way up there. And like I said, it's better that there wasn't, because now it just makes it more odd. And odd is good when you're doing a horror, which is what this book is. More than the first book, Days of the Dead, this is definitely has a lot of horror elements, which that was my plan from the get-go on this graphic novel. I wanted to introduce definitely a lot of horror elements. I mean, you could argue that the first one had some, what with the god of death and such, but and a guy getting his heart ripped out. So I'm going to put some more of these indications of the chainmail here. And then, since this is the underside of that skirt and it's behind him, it would be covered more in shadow than anything. All right. So just adding more of the shading here. They become just little patterns. Patterns of metallic shadows and shimmering little. And then, it should it should look a little battered too. It's old. It's a very old suit of armor. And if this thing has been in wars before, a little bit of showing like little stress and whatever you want to call it, wear and tear on the armor. It's only going to help sell the idea. That's the thing, as an artist, you're drawing these images, whatever it is, a person, a place, a car, whatever. Whether you're drawing it photorealistic or not, you got to sell the idea, right? You got to sell the idea of the armor, the car, the person, the tree to the reader. So, we all have our toolbox, and we all use detail. So I'm just using my what I use to just kind of accentuate the this case the armor and the stress on it, the wear and tear, so to speak. I'm going to switch over to one of my Micron pens. And I want to just add little, like I said, things that just denote little more stress, and armor's been banged up here and there over the, was it centuries? Yeah, 500 years ago. I like doing this type of stuff, like on, especially on the walls of the hacienda, because it's like stone and such. If you've seen my other pages, I mean, you know, any artist would do this. Just adding all these little dinks and, yeah, I guess they're dinks and, you know, stress, wear and tear, whatever you want to call it. And then what's the right amount? Well, that's up to each artist. And I've seen some absolutely like super detailed, you know, artists, cartoonists, you know, spend hours. Someone could spend, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, 3 hours on this drawing if they wanted to. And some would. That's just their style they do, that's great. My style is not to do that. There's not a lot, it's like there's a lot of detail behind them. It's just the curved wall of the tower too, so. And I was planning on putting big shadows behind them. But, you know, once you get started doing this stuff, the little details, it's hard to stop, because you start seeing like every spot, like you want to fill it up. And in the case of this character, it's not bad, because it is all, like I said, it's a very old suit of armor, and he's a warrior, so he's been beat up, and he's been through, you know, this is not his first day at the rodeo. So, and then of course, you know, if you only add it to some things, then it'll look odd if it all doesn't have it, because like, well, is the sword newer than the rest of his armor? No. It's been around just as long, so it should also look just as, you know, beaten up, so to speak. You know, it's really interesting, like, you could be focusing, you as the viewer, like, on one little section here that I'm doing. And like, oh, is that consistent? The pattern? Is it this and that? But, you know, one thing you just learn, just, someone's going to open this page up. They're going to look at the whole thing. You know, Conquistador, armor, old, battered. And then they'll go to the next page. And that's how it should be. People can go back and enjoy like I do. I'll go back and look at a book and a comic and slowly look at the art and admire it. But when I'm doing that initial reading, I am kind of moving through it quick. So that guy who spent 3 hours on this page, you know, people are going to probably flip through it just as quick as they would on mine, at least the first time they read it, because they're into the story. That should always be the hope, I would think. And like I said, of course, people can come back later and enjoy the particular page and, you know, do a YouTube video on the page, on the book, and talk about why they love it so much. So, anyway, that's a little bit of chatting here while I'm inking. Like I told you guys all the time on these inking videos, I've done several. You know, some people do like a live inking video, and they have the chat going on off camera, and they engage with the conversation, which I you know, I love engaging with people, and I love to do that. But I just couldn't see how I could be reading the screen and trying to address everybody and then draw, or otherwise I'd be drawing and then all these great questions and comments are showing up and I'm not looking at them as they get pushed down by new comments. So, but you know, a lot of people do it. And it's, you know, and I guess it's a given that you're not going to answer every comment. You're not going to see every comment. But maybe once I start doing it, it won't bother me so much that I'm missing comments. Not that I'm trying to, but anyway. Oh, I'm going to add something here to this piece of the armor on his, I guess where his shoulder is. I know what I want to add. You can't ever add too many little bolts, right? I figure this suit of armor is pieced together, so. And then wonder if someone's pointing at the video right now. Oh, add some more over here or over here. Might be itching like, oh, you got to get that part. You haven't done that part yet. And again, if I finish this video, I don't know if I'm going to finish the drawing today on the camera, at least in the episode. But yeah, there's no like rule like, okay, I can't go back and add to this. So whatever I don't finish here, I will definitely. Well, I might notice it. It might bother me, whatever, later, and I'll either fix it or add to it, add more inking, or maybe correct something, white it out or something. But yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, we had a blank sheet of paper at one point. I had the pencil drawing on it. Now I'm on my way to finishing it. Okay, so let me get a ruler because I want to do the blade of the sword. Sure, it's always gonna have a sheet of paper. I know some people use it to cover put it under the hand so they don't. But I think I've been pretty careful of not smearing the ink. So let me reach over here for my ruler. It's got like a very thin cork base on it, so that helps keep the ruler off of the paper. It wouldn't be so much a problem with this, but sometimes that ink can bleed under the ruler if it's touching the paper, and then it's smeared, it'll get on the paper. It'll get on the paper where you don't want it to, put it that way. So let's you know what? This pen looks like it's drying up a tiny bit, but hopefully the ruler didn't move. Okay. And right here, let's do the other side. You hear that noise? It's like it's rubbing against the ruler. I'm gonna look for a thicker pen later, because I do want that line thicker. But for now, I add the rest of the armor here. Okay. And might be just about done, I think, with the basic armor. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, I definitely want to go over the sword, the blade with the thicker pen. But let's see, I think that's not bad. All right. Maybe put it this way so you can see the whole thing in camera. But okay, well, there we go. So what else? Yeah, so I'm gonna work on the shadow behind him, and yeah, this would be nice, right? All this here, everything here will be black behind him. This will be part of the stone wall, and this insert panel will pop out, right? Because it's gonna be, yeah, I think in front of this black field here is shadow, is menacing shadow. It's gonna be a lot of ink on here. I may use one of my Tombow black markers to fill up all this black here. I think that's it for now. Oh, I just saw something. Maybe somebody saw it earlier, but now I see it. Yeah, I see the pencils here. The little bolts. Let's see what else. Like if I didn't do it, no one would notice. But you notice it as the artist, so once you see it, you can't unsee it, as they say. So yeah, I have to address that. Blend this in more a little bit, the shadow to the top of that helmet. Okay, so I think for now that's going to be it. Stop it there. I want to get up and stretch a bit. But we're at about 35 minutes, I think. So that's not too bad. It's not bad. It's not bad for finishing this whole figure. Again, all this black behind it. All this black behind it. Yeah, that's going to take a little time. So I think that's it then for now. So thanks for, let me put it in so you can see the whole thing here. But thanks for watching the video. And like I said, if you haven't read the comic, the CASA del Diablo, there's 2 editions available. There's going to be some type of glare, I'm pretty sure. But this is the regular edition. It's just got the 28 pages, basically. The deluxe edition, it's 64 pages, super thick. It's got the 28 pages in there. And then it's got the layout, the sketches, the layout pages of each one. Talk about comparing, right? Let me show you this. I know some have seen it, but I always assume I have new viewers. Here's the thumbnail page, the sketch. There's the final page, which really didn't change much. I mean, it's the same 4 panels. We're looking at Zach looking into his computer. He's filming himself, so there's his image. There he is there. He's drinking coffee in the second one. Here he's not. This shot's basically the same from behind him at his computer. And this is a side shot of him. So anyway, the deluxe has the first 28 pages in the thumbnail stage as well. So you can find that on my web shop. They're both available there separately, I think. And if you've never read El Muerto and you're watching this video for the first time, you're interested, the first graphic novel is available on the web shop or through Amazon. Javier Hernandez, Days of the Dead graphic novel. I guess it's, if you can look it up like that. But this is the first book, how he becomes El Muerto and how he ends up in Mexico. In fact, the last page of the book, he gets into this Volkswagen after the adventure ends, and reflective there. So this next story takes place literally right after that. Well, we check it on his friend Zach, but when we go back to Mexico, there's Diego driving that Volkswagen as he's driving from Mexicali area to Tijuana. So anyway, that's that stuff. Check the link down below for my store if you want to check that stuff out. Otherwise, thanks everybody for watching. As usual, like the video. That always helps. Leave a comment. Any comments you have about inking or what you saw or whatever. And subscribe to the channel so you can always be aware of the next video that pops up. And never hurts for you to share this on your social networks. Let your friends and allies, whatever, know that there's this inking video up at the Los Comics TV channel. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you again at a next episode.